Welcome back to the HIC Talk Stage. Coming next, Svenja Gossing from PowerMBA, direct from the main stage here on the HIC Talk Stage, with the topic Hospitality 3.0, what is needed to retain and attract top talents. You can come to the stage and have fun.
Well, thank you so much, Lia. Thanks for having me today. So it's a hot topic, and before I get started, I'm not from the hospitality industry, but I can feel your pain. My husband works in the hospitality industry, so I see it from firsthand normally. So if you switch to the first slide, please, because I know that the clicker is not working. Don't worry, it's not working anyways, all good. I have to let Lia sit first, so okay. So you know better than I do what are currently the challenges and the opportunities of the industry. And so you have the opportunity of innovative technology if it comes to, for example, optimizing checking processes, you know, where people just want to have a seamless check-in, or if it comes to reputation management, which was about topics like TripAdvisor, which can actually ruin, in worst case, a hotel reputation. Today, of course, I want to focus with you on retaining and finding talents that we will cover in a second, but also other aspects which are currently challenging the industry are digital marketing, to actually have a digital marketing strategy in place, or also creating loyalty programs. So if you continue, Lia, I will make you work, so you'll have to click quite a lot. Another effect, of course, and we covered that a couple of times during the panels today, is the effect of COVID-19. And these are just some random numbers I got from the DEHOGA, and pretty much telling you that there are less people actually employed in the industry, that there are less vacancies, and at the same time we have the gap of talents, which is continuously decreasing. It's harder and harder to find skilled workers, and at the same time, if you think about the trends which are also affecting the industry, digital marketing, loyalty program, social media skills, it's an industry which is currently quite challenged, I would say. So if you continue for next one. So what we currently have, if I talk to hospitality people, and as I said, I work for the PowerMBA, which is a tech startup from Spain, I continuously kind of get this feeling that two things, pretty much the hardest, are finding the right talents and making them stay for not such a good pay and not such good work-life balance. Those are pretty much the topics I often have. Today we have different topics on new work and so forth, so it's a different mindset, but still that's the crisis management challenge a lot of people out there have to face day to day. And absolutely, this is the core topic which has to be solved first, but at the same time, and that's pretty much also one of my aspects I want to kind of deep dive with you today, is you need an ongoing transformation starting also today to tackle all those other challenges which I was outlining. Digital marketing, like new talents coming in, new skills are needed, and so forth. So it's really a continuous thing you have to start nowadays to get fit for the future, to work on new leadership aspects, to get the millennials and Gen Zs in, which have a totally different mindset, which are more tech, which have a higher tech affinity and so forth. So this is also a challenge which we might not really see already, but which you see in other corporations, and a lot of corporations I worked for already absolutely being there. So if you jump to the next slide, and it's truth, you know, if you think of, we often focus on the problem which we see right in front of us. If a house is burning, we try to deal with the house and kind of like take care of the fire, but we don't realize that there's actually a whole forest burning behind it. Same with COVID and climate crisis. If you compare it like this, we had this sustainability topic today. So not only focusing on the short-term thing, but also think longer and start with a new strategy now will be something the hotel industry definitely will have to look into. So if you jump on the next one. And it doesn't matter if you have an extensive HR department or if you just have somebody doing the people topic, it doesn't really matter, but the people, the HR topic really is one of the most relevant roles when it comes to all this ongoing transformational topics, when it comes to winning and retaining talents nowadays, because what are they doing? They are actually like building new leadership structures or helping them to build new leadership structures. They also help to establish programs which do train also ideally talents. They educate leaders to actually enable them to train the talents. And of course, at the same time, ideally, this runs into an organization which ends up being more agile and more flexible. So this is a very, very defined role by HR, but if you are, at least from my corporate view, what I can share, HR was never really perceived to be, I would say, the enabler of business. It was HR partner, yes, but it was not there yet on the same level to really help business to find those real talents. And this is why HR has to really get a new role in this whole thing. So what do I mean by that? Maybe jump to the next slide. Well, first of all, before I elaborate on that, it's kind of, if we keep on focusing on the short-term thing, solving that short-term thing to just hire talents and fill the close gap which we try to fill, it's like we try to expect new results, but by doing the same thing. It's not going to work. That's why we have to rethink the way we're doing things now. So if you jump into that. Why that? We saw the challenges I was mentioning. Give you an example, digital marketing. At the same time, we have new generations coming in. Gen X, which is, I hate to say it, it's my generation. You have the millennials, and you have Gen Z. Gen X, when I started working, it was very much about having a car, maybe, ideally, at a certain time, having an office, getting good pay. Maybe you were a little bit like on digital tooling, but digitalization wasn't really not a topic so much for my workspace, or my work history. Now with the millennials being more and more dominant, being in leadership roles, you do have a total different outlook on also how leadership culture is led. Certainly, they ask for purpose in their job. My generation didn't really ask for purpose, and I'm being black and white here. We just asked for being paid and kind of like fitting into a job, our skills, and do that job. This generation now is different. They ask for purpose, they ask for coaching, for mentoring, and then Gen Z comes, which is totally different, aligned with technology. How do you deal with that? They think like virtual reality is one of the leading technologies which will definitely disrupt their workplace. And so we have to deal with those challenges, and I think we cannot look away anymore because it's kind of, it's like the climate crisis, to make this comparison again. It's there. We have to look at it. And so the question is how to best look at it. And yeah, it will definitely require a certain work. So if you jump on that. So there is no ideal blueprint how to establish new work models. I'm sorry, I'm standing in front of the slides the whole time. There is no ideal topic to really bring a blueprint into, for example, a corporation or a hotel. In the end, it has a lot to do with piloting things. The core thing for sure is always starting with a why. You have to really show why people topics, why, for example, new work approaches, because the new generations we looked at are very, very open to different ways of working. So you have to kind of break down to them and start with the management why this is an important thing to start. So you need to have a people strategy in place. That's why the role of HR is so important, because to be honest, the HR role, or in general, if you think of HR, most of the HR departments, they don't have really a strategy in place. They plan the FTE, the FTEs, they say, okay, we need this or that, but they don't really have an overall picture when it comes to that. Secondly, you have to establish some kind of people development program, in a sense, to really say, okay, what are the skills, what my people need, what are actually also the leadership skills I want to live, because how can I deal with people who are differently minded in order also to kind of create a culture where both of them can learn. And you also have to kind of, if you think again about this digital marketing example, what I mentioned, you have to think about what skills are needed. If you want to implement a content strategy in a hotel, if you want to implement a digital marketing strategy, you definitely will have to have certain skills in that. And so this is, again, something which kind of goes along those lines to say, starting with a why, starting with a people strategy, thinking about skills which you need, thinking about leadership qualifications, and then train and kind of pilot things. And it doesn't mean you have to go extreme. It really is an evolutional process. So a lot of people often think you have to just implement Scrum or design thinking or start like working in sprints. That's honestly bollocks. It's not going to work. I've been in companies where we did that. Everybody was, in the end, certified Scrum Master and so forth. You have to kind of do a step-by-step approach and kind of see how to best, in the end, establish a system like that in the corporation, in the setup you have, and learn with that. So it's pretty much putting people in the middle, thinking about the needs, thinking how they could best like fulfill the jobs they are in, flexible work models and so forth. Think about how to best work with them as a leader, and then pilot from there. And then you will have a changing culture kind of moving towards that. And that can be implemented in corporations, and it can be also implemented in a hotel, for example. So you don't have to go extreme. And that's kind of the point I want to make. And this is, of course, how you can win and train talents, because you create a different culture, you create a different working environment and so forth, where people can be attracted again and see what's possible. So if you jump to another slide. Just to give you a quick also outlook again, if we talk about management, how management is led, and the hotel industry often is one example, but also in other corporates, the modern management system which we are still using are from 1920. Convertible, that's kind of when we were like producing cars, Ford did. This is when management was invented. If you're interested in that, definitely check out Gary Hamel, which is great. But if you think about it, we still manage our people the way when we invented that in 1920, we still do it the same way. Like nothing has changed, it's crazy. Google, of course, as one of the North Star benchmarks, you know, we all are not going to be Google, that's for sure. But Google definitely really, really critically reflected on new leadership and how to better shape that. And so what they did, they said, since the millennials ask more for coaching and so forth, they said, okay, they made this huge project, Project Oxygen, and they said, okay, what are the key traits, data-based, what a great leader person needs to have? And so they came up with those points. Has to be a good people coach. Don't micromanage me. Help me for my career development. Like, of course, you have to succeed with your results. I mean, it's not about being in La La Land. It's really about, in the end, you have to bring the results in the hotel, that's for sure. But it's also about, you know, in general, like really take strong decisions together with your team, but also trust your team being the experts in what they are doing. So this is something which is really, really data-based, and this is where we have to move towards to. Next step. Often when we also had this discussion just a second ago on the panel, like how to best like transfer skills. It's a big topic, of course, if you have those gaps of people maybe being qualified for role A, but maybe you're not finding the right person, how can you actually find the right fit to hire? And I think what's kind of important, and it doesn't have to be a scientific work, I think it can be done quite hands-on, it's really to critically reflect and think what are actually the core skills this position has to kind of fulfill. And the thing is, a lot of people and a lot of companies don't do that. They don't think about their core roles, they don't think about the core skills, and they don't even know what their employees really are capable of doing, because nowadays, people have side hustles, they have like, maybe they work different part-time jobs, they have additional skills, and this all is not known, to be honest, because we are just hired for a very tight job. So the thing is really to start to think about your core skills, think about, you know, where are my workforce at the moment? How are my people currently doing? Do I have gaps? And then train them and develop them in kind of like a journey to really think like either individual learning in the sense of the leader takes care of it, or maybe even installing online programs and so forth to really help them to develop into different roles and different positions. Again, think about the digital marketing person. It's no problem to learn digital marketing nowadays online and do that and start to really build up skills in that. I mean, we even offer programs for that. So it's kind of, you can think creatively, and it doesn't have to be an extensive thing all the time. So, of course, for that, you kind of have to understand, this is where I'm standing now. Those are the skills which I have. This is the gap what I have. And this is where I want to go. That's part actually also of the people strategy. And so this is where HR, that's what I emphasize so much, comes in place in order to help, depending how big, of course, your company is, to kind of advance that and create really later learning journeys, which again motivates people to stay longer. So last one. So actually taking it up, and I was actually quite quick, I'm surprised. But like the key takeaways actually I wanted to make today. So I know the industry is in a huge turnaround. I mean, there is a crisis management, even though we see positive development coming. However, this is not the only challenge in a sense to only not having the right skilled workers. At the same time, you're challenged by a lot of other things going on in the sense of having to have new talents with new skills and so forth. So I made this example now a couple of times around digital marketing. At the same time, you do have a new workforce moving in, so you can't continue the same way as you did. So that requires a new leadership concept that definitely needs to be in place. And I believe that HR at a certain time, or the person who is responsible for the people topics, has to kind of really understand that and enable business. And so in the end, to be honest, there is no blueprint. It really is try and error, creating a culture where you can learn, where you can thrive, and kind of take it step by step. It's really an evolution. It's no revolution. It's not going to work that way. So that was kind of my impulse for all around this topic. Feel free to ask any questions which you might have, or reach out, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Svenja. Here's a question.
Not a question, actually, just a comment.
Okay, then.
Seriously, I just wanted to say that I'm a big fan of the PowerMBA. Seriously, and this is what I just wanted to drop. You guys are doing a really great job, and the value you get for the amount of money you pay is like insane. And I have 3 of my friends who are in the hospitality are doing the PowerMBA. I would be the 4th one if I wouldn't have become father, so I'm quite busy with myself. So I will do the PowerMBA at a certain time. Just wanted to thank you. And from my point of view, the PowerMBA is like the crypto in the education part. So you're doing an insanely job. It's not always about the classic study way. You can empower everyone to do something, to learn something. And maybe just a short question, are you planning to do it in different languages as well? Because sometimes people are, and I had 2 in my team who asked me for feedback for that, or I empowered them to do that. And sometimes it's like that they don't feel confident to do it in English, right? I mean, but anyhow, this was actually everything I want to say.
Well, first of all, thank you for your feedback, and I give it to the founders who actually found that company. And for those who don't know the PowerMBA yet, really the idea behind it, and that fits also to the hospitality, is to really like democratize education and to make like an MBA program or digital marketing program affordable for everyone. That's kind of the big philosophy behind it. And they started to really do a radical change in educational business, which really made them kind of expand hugely. To tackle your question, we are continuously definitely discussing it. So we currently have the program in Spanish, and we are thinking back and forth if a German version or parts of German, for example, would also be beneficial, because Germany is a very important market. But of course, it then has to be kind of a demand. So it depends on whom you talk to. Sometimes if you talk to more Mittelstand people, for example, they always say, please, like German would be beneficial. But then again, you hear the others who say, oh no, I rather want to have the global program with a global thing. So it's, again, in the end, a question of demand, but the flexibility is there, I would say, and definitely if we see the demand is high enough, they would do it. And plus, never forget, we have a Spanish guy doing the English program, so your colleagues should not be afraid, to be honest, because if you have him speaking English and he does a great job, I think after a while you're able to understand everything. And we have German subtitles too, just in case. So thank you for the feedback.
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, then, thank you, Svenja.
Thank you very much for having me.